during the week. We're looking specifically at the 27 years of the NRM and their new commitment to better rule. This week, the country marked 27 years since the NRM came to power after waging a 5-year liberation struggle. It was a time of reflecting on the progress and challenges gone through that during that period and what needs to be done in the future to make this country better. At this ceremony, many people were awarded medals, but most notable was the late Sir Edward Mutesa and the late Dr. Milton Obote. Others included the late Dr. James Murwana. In total, 350 medals were given out in different disciplines. Some people are wondering why former President Idi Amin Dada was not awarded. In his speech, President Museveni highlighted several achievements made in the 27 years, especially a strong and disciplined army. He also spoke about the transformation of the Ugandan economy and renewed his call for the scrapping of bail for suspects in capital offenses, including corruption, saying it is hampering the fight against corruption. The president said the recent exposure of corruption in government departments was done by sympathizers of the NRM government and young police officers who must be supported by tougher laws. President Museveni insisted that only the NRM can eliminate corruption, given its discipline, and that in the near future we will see more arrests of the corrupt. On the improvement of service delivery, the long-serving president of this country said paying the chief innovators, the scientists, plus the judges is a sure way of achieving this. So today we look at the commemoration of the 27 years of the NRM in power to see if at all the affairs of the state are being managed well according to the reasons that prompted the liberation struggle. We also look at the issues raised by the president and how, if implemented, they would be able to deal with the challenges. Our guests tonight, Dr. Bainomugisha, head of the Peace and Security Program at ACCORD, that's the Advocates Coalition on Development and the Environment. He's also a lecturer of the same at Makerere University. You're most welcome, Dr. Bainomugisha.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening, viewers and listeners.
Viewers, because also on the internet, you can get a video of Spectrum off YouTube. We also expect to be joined by Mr. Fred Bamwine, Resident District Commissioner of Mpigi District. Dr. Arthur, has the NRM come of age?
Thank you very much, Edmond. Of course, the NRM is now an old party, as the president said. 20 years in the bush, 30 years in almost 30 years in power. So the NRM is an old party now, and so it has come of age. But the most important thing, of course, we count its age from 1986, when the National Resistance Movement and army captured power in Kampala here. So for the last 26 years, the NRM has been in power. So we cannot, whatever it does now cannot be, we cannot, I mean, it can be accused of anything, but it's an old party. They are now old people. It is true when they came into power, they were young people. They were inexperienced. But after 26 years in power, of course, we see mature people. It's a mature government, and so I think they are of age.
Well, I mean, earlier today, I was looking at the CV, the curriculum vitae of someone looking for a job. He was born after the NRM came to power. He's a grown-up man with a university degree, and I've seen people with masters and who are grown-up. So that's really a long time, coming close to a generation. Yes. What would you say are the shortfalls of this government?
No, I think, Edmond, maybe one would want to look at the achievements of the NRM before we look at the shortfalls. I think to a large extent, for some of us who came, 1986, I was in senior 4, and so when the NRM came to power, it became clear that some of us who passed our A-levels now were able to come to Makerere University. Remember, before the NRM came to power, the country had been actually was almost a corrupt country, and with the various warlords controlling different parts of the country. So the NRM can be credited for consolidating the country together, for bringing together the various fighting factions, either through military defeat or peace agreements, to a unified government and unify and bring peace to most parts of the country, save of course northern Uganda and eastern Uganda, of course the Teso Rebellion, 87 to around 1991. It brought peace. So that the country did not degenerate into a Somalia scenario, I think that the NRM was able to consolidate peace and establish a government, control all parts of the country, is an achievement because it would have become a corrupt state like Somalia with all the attendant problems. But secondly, the NRM of course can be credited for a number of things. I'm not the spokesperson for the NRM, but I think to be fair, we can look that peace, although that peace is not yet very positive peace.
What do you mean it's not positive peace? The economy has grown because there's been peace.
Yeah, to the extent that we have had a 23-year-old war running in northern Uganda, and northern Uganda is just emerging or transiting from war to peace, and of course they're still suffering the effects of the war. So you can say that we have peace, but of course we haven't consolidated that peace to become very positive peace, as we call it. But in terms of peace, and of course that's what people have been talking about, that they have been able to sleep and wake up and continue to do their work. So peace has come, but I should say that not in its fullest sense, especially in some parts of the country that are just emerging from war. But we can also talk about education. Liberalization of education in this country for people, if you take people like Moses R, who just graduated with their law degrees, the opportunities that were opened up for people who, when the university was closed to most people, but the liberalization of education, of course, by the NRM government opened the doors of universities to people, and they were able to get this education. And I think people like Moses R and other people have been able to acquire degrees. Even people who are just in business and did not have enough qualification, they have gone to school and improved their education, and which has empowered our business sector. So, but not only the university education, but of course the universal primary education, and now the secondary education. Universal primary education opened doors wide to many children. Actually, in 1997, when UPE was introduced, enrollment rose from 2.5 million to almost 7 million. That was important. The challenge now, of course, is the perfection of UPE, to improve it in terms of the completion rate, in terms of the quality of UPE. But that we have many children going to school, I think, is a very big boost to this country. And I think Uganda became then a model for most countries. In fact, Kenya copied UPE from here. So many African countries have taken on the UPE model, and many African children are now going to school. And I think allowing many children to go to school is going to be one of those turning points in Africa, as Africa positions itself to dominate the 21st century. It is going to cash on that wide open door for many of its children going to school. The other point, of course,
you expect Africa to dominate the 20th century.
This is the century for Africa. But, you know, underpinning that, I mean, Africa must position itself, of course, by sending many of its people to school.
Maybe selling art crafts.
And of course, improving good governance. But the other point, Edmond, very quickly, of course, is the whole democratization process, and which of course was started by the constitutional making process in 1989. I think that was important because the constitutional making process that took 5 years also was underpinned by wide-scale civic education, which opened up the eyes for many of Ugandans. And in fact, that one for me was important. That the NRA, of course, the NRM was able to serve the objectives for which it was fighting, to bring democracy in this country. Now the challenge is whether they have brought full-scale democracy is another thing, but the constitutional making process that was underpinned by civic education is good. And of course, we have also had regular elections. Now, I'm not going to comment on the quality of those elections, but that this country from 1989, of course, from the LOC system that involved the aligning behind the back of the candidate to now to secret ballot itself is important for a people that had not tasted democracy for a long, long, long time. And so now what we can have, we have people wanting to deepen democracy. We are not talking about bringing democracy now, but we are talking about deepening democracy and perfecting democracy. I think for me that is very, very important. The other one, of course, was also to establish a government that is responsive to the people. I think for the first time in many years in this country, people began to know that the leaders in the government were their servants. So I think that is also important because we had governments that were not accountable because most of them were dictatorial. So even now, as we are challenged, because I think the challenges facing this country and this government now is making a movement in terms of further democratization. But you see the leaders trying to explain to the people, and I think for me that's an important departure. Now, I know there are other points and my colleagues could add, but I think the major challenges facing
but before we get to the challenge, one important positive side you cannot ignore is the economy. When the economy inflation, when they came, inflation was 240%. Yes. Interest rates were very high as well, almost prohibitive. We had foreign exchange scarcities, goods were not available, roads and the main street was selling bananas and other things. So they restored the economy. It now is growing, inflation is down, interest rates are down, and it's a structured economy with a smaller stock exchange, but it's got positive signs there. That's an important.
I want to agree with you, of course, that we are a near collapse. We are not producing anything, including soap. Basic commodities were being imported from the region.
At that time.
I remember when we produced our first key soap. Was it key soap? Sumuruzo. Kenya almost mobilized the troops against Uganda because Kenya wanted Uganda to depend on its exports. But so the economy and, of course, industrialization, there is that value when people begin to produce their own thing. Industrialization, of course, which underpins that economic revamping of our economy, I think was very important that we began to produce our own commodities and even begin to export. That makes you a nation. That it's like a home that feeds itself is different from a home that actually buys or begs from other people. The day you produce your own food, you really celebrate. So I think to the extent that this government was able to revamp that economy, to begin industrialization, was a plus. That doesn't mean that we should be complacent and asking for better things and for more things. But I think to that extent, the NRM can be credited for doing that. And of course, as I said, peace and security and respect for human life.
Right. And of course, that was in 1987 when the government was still fresh. They decided, we were spending a lot of money trucking in goods from Mombasa. They decided they would use the railway system. And it caused problems with top politicians in Kenya who had important interest in trucks that brought in goods at that time. And at one stage, the border was closed, but the tensions arose from alternative routes through the railway station system. Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight we're reviewing the week, specifically looking at the 27 years of the NRM and its new commitment to good governance and economic growth and development. Our guest tonight, Dr. Bainomugisha, head of the Peace and Security Program at ACCORD. That's the Advocates Coalition on Development and the Environment. It's an important think tank, one of the best in Africa. You had kudos given to you the other day. You are number 2 in Africa, somebody said, a U.S. university, I think.
We are second in Uganda and we are 25th in Africa.
25th in Africa,
yeah.
That's an important rank. We're also joined by Mr. Fred Bamwine, Resident District Commissioner of Mpigi District. He's just joined us. You're most welcome, Mr. Fred Bamwine.
Thank you so much, Edmond, and I want to say good evening, listeners and viewers. And at the same time, I want to thank my colleague, Arthur, who has been here, and have had his contribution in how Uganda has moved in the last 27 years. I think it has been a great journey, and I am happy to be here to share with my views with the listeners.
All right, we've had the positive side. Talk to us about the shortfalls. Where have you now, has the NRM tried to step aside from your yellow colors and give us an objective view? Where has it fallen short?
Before I give my how it has fallen short, there are some just a little correction I wanted to make.
Please do.
Dr. Arthur mentioned about the NRM as a party for 27 years. I think that's
We can skip the details.
That's very fundamental. That's very fundamental. Because there are many members who were part and parcel of the movement, and those who are not members of NRM as a party. So I think NRM as a party started in 2005, and NRM as a movement started the last 27 years.
All right, okay.
So that's the distinction I wanted to make, because there are those who contributed in the first, and they are not part and parcel of these 5 or 6 years.
Go on.
But by and large, he has mentioned many things, and there's one important thing I want Ugandans to remember: dignity of the country, to be called Uganda. Because I have interacted with people who were out that time, that they used to be shy to be called Ugandans. And I was reading a book by Rutalindwa. Rutalindwa was a barman at the Nairo Mansions. And he says, there was a minister called Alhaji Ntegerwamo, Minister of Tourism, who disappeared during Bote 2. Neither the president who appointed him, nor Parliament, nor the media managed to talk about the disappearance of a cabinet minister for 4 years. Until when the government was removed, that's when people started, where is Ntegerwamo? So we had a country, yes, as in quotes, but actually when what was happening was not. He mentions about Rugogo bypass, an area which was guarded. It was an area where they were dumping garbage, but you were not supposed to reach there because that was the dumping ground of people. So I think we have moved a very big journey.
Dead bodies were dumped there.
Very big journey.
You're saying dead bodies were dumped there?
Yeah, as garbage. And you are not supposed to go and check who has been dumped there. It was guarded 24 hours. But we have moved a journey that whereby leaders must be accountable. I think that's very, very fundamental. Leaders to be accountable, whether to explain, but at least leaders can be put tasks and get accountable. And I think that's very, very important. Then two, he also mentioned about democracy, and he said we have moved it to voting by secret ballot, which is true. But I also ask a question. During the time when we were voting by running behind, there was no single petition at any level. And you can imagine conducting national elections for parliament, for LOCs, no single petition. But when these ballot things were introduced, I saw during NRM primaries, we had 300 constituencies, and we had 800 petitions because of the secret ballot. So I think, much as we adopted that one as a modern system, but I think it is, first of all, it's expensive.
Very expensive.
That's why we don't have elections one now.
No, yes.
Secondly, I think it is also a system not yet designed to our level of development. But me, if I had the capacity, I think lining behind is the best method. So that leaders are told from a polling station that we don't want you.
Or they just look at the line and know who has won.
You don't look behind, because you're not supposed to look behind. You just hear the people in front of you laughing, or then you know that there's a person who was not voted by his wife. And that one, you know.
The rest of them had dinner in peace.
But this business of ballot box and then petitions, you know, I think that's, well, but to me, if I was,
all right.
I had the capacity.
At a certain level, yes.
Maybe I should respond to Fred. I think, Fred, let's, first of all, let's agree that African people are full human beings.
Yes, yes.
And let us also agree that really we've gone to school, that 50 years is enough. We've grown as a nation. And so,
we should have grown.
You should have grown. So that's, you know, modernity demands, dictates that actually people can have secret voting. Why it is important to have secret voting is because you don't want the conflicts that actually come around. You know, people come and convince you to vote for them. You don't give them a yes or no. But when for you know your leader. the person who can actually implement the manifesto or your program. And that's why it is a secret, so that when you go, you may even not be able to vote your wife who is standing or your husband, because you know that they are not competent. So to the extent that, and let me also add something. Don't focus on the cost of these elections, that they're expensive. That's why we haven't had the LC1 or LC2. Focus on the value. Freedom, human rights, and democracy,
yes,
and peace are not cheap. No, we must, and it's the same as life. And as soon as we realize that actually we need to invest and spend on the defense of those freedoms,
we will not value it.
We will not value it.
How come the point that you raised that there were no petitions during those days?
I mean, do you know any petition?
Of course, you can't.
He's looking at one as a positive aspect, and that one positive aspect was that actually because people were seeing it was in broad daylight and everybody would see, but the problem is that actually it created an empty. There were some women who would not vote their husbands. When they go home, they would vote behind. Yes. So I think we have now grown, and appealing democracy is the whole secret ballot to allow people vote the candidates of their choice without them coming to say that you never supported them. So that is important.
I belong to a class.
Bamwine, yes.
I belong to a class which says that if I'm to elect Edmond as my leader, there's no need why I should hide. If Edmond has qualities of being a leader, I should say yes, he's the one. If you have the capacity to campaign for somebody, why do you fear to be seen voting for him? So really, to me, the more I continue hiding about these facts, the more problems we get. Doctor, of course, you must admit there are some designs we received, whether you like it or not. For instance, the movement system of governance, which was unique in its own character. If it had some problems, I think if we had corrected some weaknesses within the movement system of government, it should have been a better system. But because the so-called big boys dictated, you had to dance that tune. But is it good for us? That's why up to now, when we go to elections, still people say, well, I belong to the movement, but Edmond, who is FDC, he has some qualities of a good leader. That's why at times you find a president, for instance, of NRM, winning a certain constituency by 90%, and the parliamentary candidate of that area loses it. So illegitimate still exists, which is a principle within the movement. So we have not affected those weaknesses which were in the movement. We should have had a system which was unique in its character, and which I think would have taken us forward.
I want to agree with you, Fred, but I think now we need to look forward. Don't look on the right, don't look on the left. Now I think it's time to look forward. Because that is an orientation. That was decided in July 2005.
It's not across the chapter.
To move on. I don't move on.
But it's not across the chapter. We can go back to the movement system.
But let me tell you something. In 2001, Rwandans voted Chris Taylor into power. Not because they wanted him, but they wanted the war to end. So the open voting, the lying behind an individual has that element that people will vote out of fear, because they know if they don't vote for you, in the end, they can die. So people voted for Charles Taylor not because they liked him. But I also tell you that in very good America, just a second, in America, they, actually when Obama came to power in 2008, Obama was overwhelmingly voted by Americans across the political divide. Both the Democrats and the Republicans voted for him. So it is possible that when, and it was because it was a secret ballot, actually Republican card-wearing members crossed the party lines because they saw that actually that Obama was a better candidate, and they elected him.
Uganda missed an opportunity of having a unique system which was in itself in the world.
Right.
We should have been inventors of that system, but unfortunately, because we fear the big boys, we dance that tune, which I don't subscribe to.
Just been joined, this is Spectrum. We've just been joined by our third guest, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time legislator at the East African Parliament. You're most welcome, Honorable Lydia.
Thank you. Good evening, our listeners and viewers. Habari za jioni.
Let's talk about the 27 years in 1.5 minutes before we break. what are the things that you think should have been done? Missed opportunities. Talk to us about those. We've heard a lot about the good things.
I think we should have. I think we overlooked the issue of governance in terms of corruption from the beginning. We should have set the standards very high, and we should have had in place policies and legislation that deal with the preventive more than the post-mortem. Our country is struggling with the post-mortem. You know, money first gets lost, or there is abuse of office first, and then you work backwards. So sometimes you never really get back what was due for the service delivery of the people. We lose time, but actually we recover very little resources. And we've realized it's a problem when a lot has been lost. And you can see the struggle right now, both on the government and the public's side. But I thought that was an opportunity lost. But I think the lessons we've learned can help us turn around this situation, but it is going to be more costly than right from the beginning if we had put in place mechanisms like how Rwanda did it, because they began from the word go, putting in place preventive values and measures to make sure that there is an integrity test before you take public office, and therefore they've been able to save leakages in terms of abuse of office and corruption. And I think Uganda is going to go through the Kenyan way, where they've had now to do public hearings about public officers, and they have had a new constitution now, and they're doing chapter 6. The whole of chapter 6 of the Kenyan constitution is about integrity issues, right? And that's what they're doing okay. Now. Yeah.
We're going for a break. When we come back, we'd like to hear some more of that interesting analysis of what we really should have done. This is Spectrum. We're going for a break. We'll be back to stay tuned.
Communications Commission invites entries for the 3rd ASIA Awards, scheduled for June the 7th, 2013. Visit www.ucc.co.ug/awards for information on the categories and criteria. Deadline for entries is April the 30th, 2013. ASIA, ICT Innovation for National Development.
Will Call of the Wild this Valentine's with Reds. Buy Reds and win a getaway for 2 to the Wild Waters Lodge, plus other amazing prizes. See present posters for details or visit your favorite bar or supermarket. Happy Valentine's Day from Reds. Crisp, clean apple taste.
Not for sale to persons under 18. Ça va, hello. My name is Kogole Andela, very serious Congolese tailor. People see me when they want to look good. People leave my shop looking like superstars of TV. But however much I make you look beautiful or even sexy like me, I cannot change the person inside. The real you, kind of like Uganda Waraji. It has this beautiful look, but inside they have maintained the same old spirit that we know. The same old spirit we have known for many years in a new suit. New look. You want to try it? Enjoy the new Uganda Waraji. The same Ugandan spirit with a new look. Uganda Waraji. Same spirit, new look. Uganda Waraji. Excessive consumption of alcohol is harmful to your health. Not for sale to persons under 18 years. Please drink responsibly.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. We're reviewing the week, specifically looking at the 27 years of the NRM and its new commitment. Our guest tonight, Dr. Bainomugisha, head of the Peace and Security Program at ACORD, that's the Advocates Coalition on Development and the Environment, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time legislator of the East African Parliament, and Mr. Fred Bamwine, Resident District Commissioner of Mpigi District. Honorable Wanyoto, you are prescribing for us some preventive values and measures to remove theft and other ills among public leaders specifically. What exactly would we have to have done to get there?
First of all, you talked about Accord. I would like to thank Ugandans for the support they've given Accord, because I'm part of the Accord.
You are chairperson?
No, I'm not.
Member of the board, actually?
Yes, I am.
Shareholder.
And we are happy that we've been able to deliver the expectations of those that are stakeholders with us, and to recognize that we're doing a good job in Uganda.
Accord is recognized as the second biggest think tank, the second best think tank in Africa, in Uganda.
By the Bamwines, the Edmond, Kizitos, and everybody. But we have a base in Uganda. So I wanted to say that the NRM government has come a long way, and that the biggest challenge, I don't know, you wanted me to begin with the challenges, but I want to talk about...
We've said a lot of good things about the NRM, including some of us. We've been saying good things alone.
No, one thing that I can start on before I talk about the challenges I began with, also a regional issue, because we share practices. Uganda today is chairing 4 important regional initiatives and leadership. It is chairing the East African community. That is a very big statement of confidence in us as a country. You don't just rotate. I know that I've been there, don't challenge me on that, because there are times when they are telling people to wait because they are not ready. So I am speaking from the point of authority on East Africa. That's why you have to give it to me. We are chairing this African community at a very delicate stage when we are negotiating the common market. I mean the common currency. The common currency is a very sensitive political statement. It's a fiscal statement of our countries. And also we are beginning to talk about and lay the groundwork of the political federation, for which I'm a member of the eminent persons. But we are also chairing the International Conference of the Great Lakes that handles issues of peace, stability and development, and right now Uganda is mediating the conflict in the DRC and the M23 and other groups to bring peace, to pacify the DRC. The other one is that Uganda is chairing COMESA. We are chairing COMESA, and these are issues of trade and development. So I can go on, and I think it's important for us to know that that alone gives us a statement. We've come a long way. We've built confidence with our neighbors in Africa, in the Great Lakes, and that the people have confidence in us. And as I speak, maybe because I'm Ugandan, I was appointed just this week to go and coordinate and lead the EAC Secretariat. I'm going to lead the EAC Secretariat in Nairobi for the observer mission in Kenya. So I don't think that because I'm very clever or intelligent. It's because there's a focus on Uganda to deliver leadership and expertise. And of course, I was honored, but I've thought about it. Maybe because Uganda is been taking leadership, and I will get a lot of support. Maybe because we are going to make sure, we are going to do our best to ensure that our neighbor goes through the electoral process that is befitting the will of the people, and it's not an easy job to do. But I'm just sharing this so that people know that we've come a long way. Maybe tomorrow it will be Bamwine, the other day it will be Edmond. I mean, you'll be called upon as Ugandans to go and take up assignments that are seen to be sensitive, and for a woman to be taken up to hold a governance assignment of that nature. I mean, they've seen that Uganda will be able to reach there. I mean, even for women, we are taking up leadership, and we are very firm on positions, because the report that comes out of the observer mission will be done by myself and others, and then it will do or undo the merits of that electoral process. Having said that, therefore, from a regional perspective, we've made our mark that we have grown, that we can provide good practices in one way or another, and that we can be trusted to mediate peace, to provide leadership, to share our own experience where we have come from, because we've had our difficult past, but we seem to be getting out of it, and therefore we are called upon to share our history and look at our role in Somalia. Some people down, but you don't know how much we have been ranked in getting out of the way to go and support Somalia. I've been having assignments myself in the AMSON assignments in building the parliament of Somalia, which which is a young parliament, since so many years without a legislature. So many of us are now coming from Uganda to go and shake and build the capacity of the Somalia parliament. And therefore, I think that it's good for Uganda, and it's always good to think outside the box so that you can compare. And here I like comparing, because then that's you know whether you are tall or short.
Right.
So the challenge we have is one of them is to deal with the issue of abuse of office by those Ugandans that have been lucky to hold public office, and therefore they can access and they've been trusted by public resources.
Yes.
That's why we have a problem.
Okay.
And we have laws, but these laws are not they are not sharp enough to catch the new technologies, but also the new networks.
Sophisticated.
The sophistication that has gone with those who don't have values.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm.
Men and women would have stolen
But Kenya has led
different
on this,
times.
because Kenya has also been there in terms of corruption, and I have seen that in their new constitution, the entire Article 6 and other provisions, you now go for interviews through public viewing, and they ask you questions and they send messages, and you can lose an appointment just because of the public perception about you.
Dr. Arthur, what's your view on those points?
I think in terms of challenges, having stated some of the achievements, I think that one of the most challenging time now, issues is how the current government or Uganda as a whole can actually consolidate those achievements and scale them up. Because at the moment, I think we have a challenge of the transition, of managing the transition, of course, from either from the NRM to another political party, or from President Museveni to another leader. Yes, I think we seem to be still face that challenge of transitioning, and as such, and because of lack, and because of the challenge of transition, because this country has not had a chance of having a peaceful transfer of power from one political party to another, or from one leader to another. And I think it's very important in democratic consolidation that you have this peaceful thing and sets a precedence. And so I still think that President Museveni has to
been handing over peacefully to himself.
He needs to hand over to set a precedent. The second point, of course, is consolidating the achievements. I think what we see now is that some of the achievements seem to be rolling back. If you look at service delivery, there is a problem in service delivery, and I think that could be linked with corruption. Service delivery, if you move around, of course, in the health sector, I think thanks in the recent past, the health sector has been a bit revamped, and now they are no longer experiencing stockouts, but the roads are in a solid state, and I think government needs to look into that. So as long as the government doesn't focus on service delivery, then we are experiencing that rollback. Right. So that's the final point, of course, is it has to do with the elections. One of the fundamental challenges this country is facing is the electoral challenges, and you know that I think for 2 times the elections were challenged in courts of law. Is that bad? And we have not as not free and fair. And you see, if elections, it's elections that brought this country to almost its knees, because this government went to the bush. Because elections were contested. And I think we are increasingly seen within the NRM failure to organize free and fair primary elections, and of course then contested outcomes at the So I think that one is important. Government must provide leadership in undertaking electoral reforms, so that actually you can put in place a system that is accepted by Ugandans, and that would also put this country.
Edmond, I want to correct you.
There's something.
Well, let's hear from Fred Bamwine. That's the correction. Let's hear the point of correction here.
First of all, I don't know why Arthur says we have been having failed primary elections, and then he mixes them with the general elections. What happens in the NRM party is an issue of choosing parliament candidates and the local other structures, and even the presidential candidate. And as our party, how do you measure our failure? We deliver huge victories. Our primaries are very competitive. They may take a country maybe to a halt, but we heal and move on. The ultimate is, do we win or we don't win? We will win by majority and extreme majority. I don't like this happening of the difficult. I mean, I'm a mother. A pregnancy takes 9 months, but delivering a baby is very, very painful. Sometimes you actually pass on there, but the outcome, when you have a baby, then you have the children. So I don't know why you keep pampering on the price it takes. It's very competitive. It can have injuries, but we deliver victory.
What we see in the parliament now,
I think, Doctor,
what we see in the parliament is the product of how actually those people are elected. Someone, most of them
is thinking in a small way.
Doctor thinks
no,
it has nothing to do with the primaries.
There is this general feeling of some elite who think that there must be a transition from this party to another. I think for a country to move, it's not about transiting. For instance, if you have a party being supported by the entire country consistently, is it a must that one group must go, another one come? I think what is important is what does this group do when it is in office? That's the very fundamental. Is it accountable to the people? Can it deliver the service to the people? Is it responsive? But it's not a question of just changing this government, just changing this leader. That's not. But that's not. Then two, I agree that one of the things we are facing now is actually failure to manage success. For instance, when we liberalized the media, nobody expected the media to be used, for instance, to blackmail its own country. Nobody expected that when we...
Have you been blackmailing its own country?
You have had radios which incite the population to put the country on fire. You have had them. Nobody expected it. We expected the media to be responsive.
They have more sports commentaries than some of us.
Nobody expected that when we immunize the children, in a short run, we shall jump from 12 million to 36. So we have reached 36 million when we are not prepared with schools, with hospitals, with jobs, universities. They have sprung up. You have almost 100,000 graduates, and jobs are not yet there. So these are challenges out of success, and I think that's what we're grappling with. Then too, I have my personal misdemand on the question of fighting corruption. Majority of the people who talk about corruption don't want to fight it. As long as you have a constitution, this one, with Article 28, which says that
fair hearing,
that Bamwine, who has stolen 8 billion, is presumed innocent, and it is his right to get bail as long as you still have it in your books of law. You can talk, you can do this, you will not succeed. I think we must have very, very strict laws, very stringent, which makes corruption very, very risky. To the extent I advocate that we need to introduce laws which even we can put firing squad on people
Queenstown
who have embezzled the resources. We can even put in laws which say that if you meet somebody without a right hand, that means that person was corrupt.
Well, to that extent,
we can even grade the corruption as we did in the environment. You can have simple
cut off
corruption,
fingers.
you can have medium, you can have aggravated corruption, such that also the punishments are so punitive.
Some people will think you're behaving like Joseph. Cutting off people's nose.
That would be the difference between a civilized government.
Yes, and you see, why I'm saying this, we have had countries which were like us, 1960. These which ones we call the East Asian Tigers, and they are now in first class.
But the
it's because they have laws which you cannot dare. You eat a bribe, you become corrupt. You are going to explain how you achieved it. I know it. We need to have a government which is responsive, which is powerful, which can decide if they say we want a road here, whether you have a garden, whether you have a house, we destroy it. No, it hasn't happened here.
Let's move forward.
Because whenever you go, rights are like rights, then we have also a challenge whereby we have groups, NGOs, we call them nothing is going on.
Oh.
Whereby
those are people you should do.
I'm calling them out. You have groups, they receive money from those people, They come here, they share it, those people.
Okay, let's move on.
They share this in the name of Uganda.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, Uganda misses out. There is no services.
Right, we have to move on.
Their work is simple to take the agenda of the Europeans and those who are
sometimes
against
you're
Uganda.
racist, you know.
We cannot just
about the preventive values.
these exploiters must be able to fight them.
Okay. Honorable John, can you talk to us about the preventive values and measures that you spoke about earlier?
First of all, by the time you have an office that holds a budget of about 2 billion upwards, you must have gone through the ranks and files of some service. And your history must be there. There must be a track record on how you have been managing the lesser amounts of resources, but also in terms of skills. Beyond the skills, there must be a history of your character, of your conduct, of your habits, your lifestyle habits. And this is not rocket science, because it happens in other countries. That's why you see how Kenya is running interviews. They don't have to put spies on you or cut off your hand like Mr. Fred Bamwine is saying. But they just make sure that the interview process is transparent, so that the public who you serve can be able to have a say about your deployment. And number two, there must be performance contracts, because if you have been in charge of the health sector and you have not delivered the drugs, you have not delivered there must be a routine evaluation of your performance, so that you're given a job. And you realize that even in the US now they've stopped paying salaries. In most institutions they pay you as you deliver.
Let's talk about, let's get that nailed.
Those are the values.
I would like to look at the preventive. How do you get the door, the entry door? Preventive.
It's at appointment level. We should stop post-mortem cries. How did I become a PA?
Give us a case study, scenario. Give us a scenario.
Before I'm given a contract to be a permanent secretary of which ministry now? Finance.
Yes.
How did I get there? I have a history.
What questions would be asked, for instance?
Whether you are not a thief or not, you have to be straight.
You could have
where have you come from? Where you have been? Have you managed the resources properly?
You might
have you been what do you call it? Have you been fast tracked to that position, or you've gone through the ranks? Right. These are the issues.
Doctor,
yes, I just want to agree with the leader for once. That there are certain positions in government, very sensitive positions in government, that actually, once you have right people there, everything will fall into line. I can assure you that that is working in Kenya. But I just also want to emphasize the point. Of course, she disagreed with me, because these are top leaders in NRM. But I'm a think tank, so I just need to say it as it is to help this country, because I'm non-partisan.
No,
the whole point of the ruling, you see, this country has suffered most of the time under UPC and failure to accept that we are in a political pluralism. The way you treat the opposition, so that now you are in power, you treat your opposition as a legitimate government in waiting, so that actually when you are also in waiting, they treat you well. But in any case, we will have the law governing that one. So you still have a hangover. The NRM party behaving as the movement, and I think the ruling party must accept that in 2005 we became a political pluralist country, and therefore must accept the dictates of the laws that govern political pluralism. The second point has to do with the electoral processes. You cannot fail to organize primaries, and this is happening across the political parties. Right now, FDC is in a political distress because the losers cannot accept the winners, and the party may disintegrate. It's the nature of this society. The point I'm talking about is there is a need for internal democracy within all the political parties across the divide. But the ruling party, which is a real mother, which has more responsibility to grow the young ones, to grow these other small parties, even at the risk of them growing and wresting power from it, because we are building a nation, and we must lay the foundation of that nation. I want to quote an example. In Netherlands, just recently, a queen abdicated the throne for a son.
Yes.
President Washington just decided not to offer himself again, even when he had all that support. and allowed political pluralism. So in building a strong foundation for this country, whose 25 years of independence has been characterized by bloodletting and confusion. So I think it's incumbent in NRA, that in the NRM government, that actually fought and established what we have now, to continue and even commit class suicide, make those sacrifices, and build a solid foundation. Let me tell you, most of the leaders, and let me say my man, most of the the challenge we even have now, Fred, is that actually the leaders, people don't know how to actually, it's the same people in power. Yeah, you see, for us, I'm a Munyankore, and we say that cows that don't have calves have no future. So success without a success has a failure. So it is time now. It is time the party allows new infusion of new ideas. We see people actually stepping aside and allowing other people to come in and bringing new ideas and new energy to take this country to another level.
Honorable Lydia.
I think you're not right. First of all, governments corrupts by accident. There is no government which can prepare itself to corrupt. They just corrupts by accident. That one will never be there.
From the RBC.
Secondly, that one you can't think of it, that you remove yourself. No, it's not why are you there? Then that makes a difference between us and you. Because for you think it's like a church.
All right.
Politics is not like a church. Secondly, you mentioned that, as Banyankore said, that cows not cows. There is no political party in Uganda, including NRM, which does not have successors. But the question is, who determines the successor? A member of FDC cannot determine successors in NRM.
Okay.
NRM cannot determine successors in FDC.
A member of a politician.
As far as we are concerned. No. Okay. You see, that's the difference.
Is the NRM competent to fight corruption? Some people think it is too deeply, wallowing in deep corruption.
I think let me answer my question. I think the NRM that I know, having won that war, because first of all, this is the first rebel group that won toppled actually government from within, and I think that's important. So based on that history, I think the NRM can win this war against corruption.
Some people love the commitment.
No, I think what we see now, especially the arrests that have gone on, but I think they need to take another milestone. And that milestone, of course, is to recover the money, but also it is important also to look at that law and make it strong and stringent, so that the corrupt do not even fill our parliament. Because someone has predicted that the 10th parliament may be filled by people like Kazinda, and the democracy in this country will go away. So I think the government still has.
Go on.
I think the NRM has that capacity to fight corruption.
You think they have the capacity to fight corruption? Honorable Lydia Wanyeto, President Museveni, Honorable Lydia Wanyeto.
As we speak today, we have a member of parliament who went to the anti-corruption court and admitted that he embezzled the money, and he's just seated in that parliament. I think we must have laws. Such a person should be thrown out, not even to appear in any public office again. According to the laws, we cannot.
As we leave,
actually, that one comes from a party which is supposed to remove this according to.
As we leave, Honorable Wanyeto.
It's very difficult to be on the same panel with Bamwine and that because.
I think Arthur is not that.
Let's talk about. So I wanted to say that the issue of corruption, to our listeners and to you, Edmond, and the others, it should not even be handled very emotionally like the way we are doing it. This is a very serious matter, but raising voices and not solve the problem. We need to get to the bottom of the issue, and we also make mistakes when we think that it's just the law and government.
Yes.
It should be something that we inculcate even in our families. I would be happy, God forbid, to hear spouses who tell off their families. I mean, their spouse, where did you get this car? How come you are building this house? Where did you get the... Yeah, I mean, it should be as serious as that. Right. And I remember when we were growing up, you would never go home with the shoes which are not yours.
They'll ask you
if my parents could do that to me.
Okay.
Why can't we do it today to say, your salary is 2 million shillings. How come you have to so much on the account, on the family account. But people are not asking these questions.
Okay. Want to move on. But before we go, Honorable Lydia, should President Museveni thinks bail should be scrapped for 6 months if you stole serious crimes? Is that a good law that we should look forward to?
It is not even. It's not an issue of whether it's a good or bad law. That's a fundamental right of the Constitution, and that explains his frustration. But because, in my humble opinion, like I said earlier, we are prescribing wrong medicine for the wrong disease.
Dr.
Yeah,
Arthur.
it is the wrong medicine because we are doing the preventive, I mean the post-mortem, more than the preventive. We should do the preventive.
We have to go. Dr. Arthur, one statement before we go on that.
Yeah, one statement is that one, I want to congratulate the NRM for this time, but I think the NRM should take leadership as well and democratize and deepen democracy. It is not enough for people, of course, of this country to sleep. Well, we want to have a fundamentally holistic.
And you think succession should be discussed seriously? Thank you very much, Dr. Arthur Bainomugisha, head of the Peace and Security Parliament Accord. Two-time legislator of the East African Parliament, and Mr. Fred Bamwine, ever noisome, resident district commissioner of Mpigi district. He can hardly keep himself silent. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Spectrum will be back on Monday. Up next is the news in English.